Dear friends, English Literature, Introduction to Drama, As You Like It by William Shakespeare, Short Questions with Answers. Short question 22 to 31. Question 22. What do their assumed names signify? Answer. Rosalind is taller than Celia, so when they flee from the court to the forest of autumn, Rosalind disguises as a man and Celia as a girl. Rosalind disguises as a man named Ganymede and Celia as a girl named Elena. The names that they assume themselves add to the sexual confusion of the play. Rosalind takes the name of Ganymede, who was the cupbearer of the gods, a young boy whom Jove fell in love with. Jove changed himself into an eagle and took Ganymede back to heaven with him. The name Ganymede is thus most often invoked to describe a form of homosexual love between an old man and a young boy. Rosalind's choice of this name becomes important later when Orlando woos her in the form of Ganymede, as if she were his Rosalind. Celia's choice of name Elena means the lost one. This name is highly appropriate for her because at the beginning of the play she is indeed the lost one. She is unable to survive without Rosalind. She must therefore lose herself to find herself. Question 23. Why does Orlando write verses? Answer. Orlando and Rosalind fell in love with each other at first sight. Because of Oliver's ill treatment, Orlando fled to the forest of Arden to save his life. In the forest, he has nothing to do and plans to have love poems on every bark of every tree and praise the beautiful woman to express his love for Rosalind. In the verses, Orlando praises the beauty and virtue of Rosalind. He credits her with having the beauty of Helen without her faithlessness, having Atalanta's sweetness, possessing Lucretia's modesty, and having Cleopatra's majesty. Orlando hangs his sonnets on a tree and leaves it there, commenting, "Run, run, Orlando, carve on every tree." Thus, Orlando mimics the rule of a Petrarchan lover, a man who writes sonnets to his beloved and adores her beyond compare. We see him leaving sonnets on the trees and carving Rosalind's name on every bark, on every trunk. But in a sense, he is only a parody of a true Petrarchan lover. Question 24. How does Touchstone criticize Orlando's verses? Answer. When Rosalind reads a verse containing praises of her beauty and virtue, Touchstone criticizes the verse written by Orlando. He says that he can write such verses continuously over a period of 8 years without pausing, except at meal times and at night when he needs to sleep. He further says that the verse which Rosalind has read lacks rhythm. He then composes a poem that has the same rhyme structure but insults Rosalind by comparing her either to animals or prostitutes. For instance, one of his verses reads as follows: "Sweetest nut is surest rind, such but is Rosalind." The emotional and literary excess portrayed by Orlando is of course made fun of by Touchstone, taking the advantage of the fact that Rosalind's name is scrawled on every tree. He remarks, "Truly the tree yields bad fruit." Touchstone not only mimics the writing of lovers' name on the trees, but once again serves as a mirror by reflecting the fact that the poems are awful. He goes so far as to make of a poem that derides Rosalind rather than praises her, a parody that clearly shows her how bad the other poems are. Question 25. Describe Rosalind's first meeting with Orlando in the forest of Arden. Answer. When Rosalind first meets Orlando in the forest of Arden, he talks to him disguised as a rude shepherd boy. She asks him what the time is. He tells her that there is no time in the forest. But she points out that time moves at different speeds for different persons. She then introduces Celia as a shepherdess and also her sister. She tells him that a man has been going around the forest, ruining the trees by carving the name Rosalind on them. He admits to being that man and asks if she knows a remedy. She tells him that he is apparently not in love with Rosalind since his cheeks are not lean, nor is he disheveled enough to be in love. Orlando swears that he is in love with Rosalind and asks her if there is a cure. She tells him that she once before cured a man of his love by making the man pretend that she was his mistress. After much acting, the man went truly mad and ended up living a monastic life. Question 26. How does she want to cure him of his love? Answer. Orlando cannot recognize Rosalind as she is disguised as a shepherd boy, Ganymede. When she asks him if he knew the man who hangs verses on the trees and carves the name of Rosalind on barks, for she would prescribe that lovesick yet some remedy, he tells her that he is not unfortunate yet. She tells him that love is merely a madness and deserves to be cured by dark hours and a whip. The remedy she proposed and the counsel she gave him was that Orlando should come every day to the cottage where Rosalind and Celia lived. And then she said, I will feign myself to be Rosalind, and you shall feign to court me in the same manner as you would do if I was Rosalind. And then I will intimate the fantastic ways of whimsical ladies to their lovers, till I make you ashamed of your love. And this is the way I propose to cure you. Though Orlando had no great faith in the remedy, he agreed to come every day to her cottage and feign a playful courtship. And every day Orlando visited her and Elena, and he called her as Rosalind, and every day talked over all the fine words and flattering compliments which young men delight to use when they court their mistresses. Question 27. Why does Phoebe make use of Sylvius to carry her letter to Rosalind? Answer. Sylvius is passionately in love with Phoebe, who does not respond to his love for her. He begs her to show him some mercy and say that she loves him. She scorns his love and tells him she doesn't pity him for the pain he feels while loving her. At this point, Rosalind emerges and rebukes Phoebe for treating her lover in a contemptuous manner and scolds Sylvius for tolerating Phoebe's insulting attitude. But Phoebe falls in love with Rosalind in spite of her harsh words. Rosalind urges Phoebe to listen to Sylvius and scorns her love. However, she does tell Phoebe where to find her house in the forest. Rosalind then lives with Celia and Corinne. Phoebe decides to write a love letter to Rosalind Ganymede. When Silvius again pleads his love to her, she tells him that he can only enjoy her company, not her love. He agrees to enjoy her company. Thereupon, she tells him to carry a letter from her to the youth Ganymede, and he agrees to do so. Question 28. Why is Silvius surprised to know the contents of the letter? Answer. Silvius carries the letter written by Phoebe to Ganymede, Rosalind, and apologizes that he does not know the contents of the letter. Phoebe has given him an impression that it is not a reproachful letter for Ganymede's rude behavior towards her, but actually it is a message of love from her. The letter expresses her passionate love for Ganymede. Phoebe has written to ask what god she was, that, assuming a shepherd's form, has taken away her maidenly heart. The letter ends with a note that if her love is not responded, she will commit suicide. Silvius is surprised to learn that the letter, which is supposed to be a rebuke to Ganymede, is actually a love letter. Rosalind then tries to cure Silvius of his mad passion for Phoebe by saying that she is false. She also tells him that if Phoebe loves Ganymede, she would then love Silvius because Ganymede will have nothing to do with her. Question 29. Describe the Silvius-Phoebe-Rosalind subplot. Answer. Silvius is a shepherd and Phoebe is a shepherdess. Silvius has madly fallen in love with Phoebe, who does not respond to his love for her. She instead rebukes him. He begs her to show him some mercy and say that she loves him. She scorns his love and tells him that she does not pity him for the pain he feels while loving her. At this point, Rosalind emerges and rebukes Phoebe for treating her lover in a contemptuous manner and scolds Silvius for tolerating Phoebe's insulting attitude. But Phoebe falls in love with Rosalind in spite of her harsh words without knowing that Ganymede is actually a woman. When Rosalind leaves, Phoebe decides to write a love letter to Rosalind Ganymede. Silvius again pledges his love to her, and she tells him that he can only enjoy her company, not her love. He agrees to enjoy her company. Thereupon, she tells him to carry a letter from her to the youth Ganymede, and he agrees to do so. Silvius carries the letter written by Phoebe to Ganymede, Rosalind, and is surprised to learn that the letter is a message of love from Phoebe to Ganymede. Phoebe's letter ends with a note that if her love is not responded, she will commit suicide. But at the end, Phoebe agrees to marry Silvius. Then, when Rosalind sheds her disguise and Phoebe discovers that Ganymede is actually a woman. Question 30. Comment on the significance of that subplot. Answer. In the subplot, Shakespeare has chiefly utilizes the pastoral element which he found in the source from where the story of the play is borrowed. In the subplot, Silvius is portrayed as a lovesick swain and Phoebe as a country belle. According to S. A. Brooke, the love of Silvius and Phoebe is the conventional love of the Elizabethan pastoral, and it is maybe in this drama a satire on that academic literary love. Silvius' love for Phoebe is a kind of contrast between love denied and love fulfilled. It is a romance of a kind which belongs to pastoral life and follows the conventions of pastoral poetry. The two speaks in verse unlike all other lovers who speak in prose. They give a distinctly idealistic favor to their sentiments. She calls Sylvius only to find Nemesis catch with her when Rosalind avoids her ardent passion. However, this subplot is closely linked with the main plot. Rosalind is the heroine of the main plot. She disguises as a man and Fee falls in love with her, thinking her to be a man. Question 31. What is plot? Answer. Plot may be described as the providence of a drama. According to Aristotle, plot is the soul of a work of art. Aristotle defines tragedy as an imitation of an action. An action is the progress of an individual from one position to another. In other words, an action consists of incidents and events, and the arrangement of these incidents and events is plot. As is stated by Aristotle, a plot has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it is so well structured that no incident can be omitted without destroying the unity of the whole. A plot which consists of a series of disconnected incidents is called episodic plot, and it ranks the worst. Thank you friends for watching my video.